This is the Action Cast, the only podcast that always gets a flawless victory. And now, our feature presentation.
It's like the video game.
Yeah, right. It's like a video game. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Action Cast. My name is Joe Drilling, and with me at this time, you heard the voice of Alex Rio saying he gets it during the intro.
Wow.
In all fairness, both of these movies are, you get it, like the video game.
Yeah,
so,
that's absolutely.
Not both, all three.
All three of these movies. And the one who's saying that you get both of them is Bryce Wilson.
Here's what I really want to get down to at the core of this podcast. If we resolve nothing else, I want to know if Jeremy Renner is to Christopher Lambert what Mojo Nixon is to Tom Waits. So is he the guy
that's
who
like
you get when you need the $10,000 version of the guy who you actually want?
Okay, so one, that's a slight against my man Mojo Nixon, and I will not fucking hear that. But two, that's
like a throwback to the classic Action Cast Super Mario Brothers podcast. For those of you who don't remember, like Joe Drilling, where we established that Mojo Nixon is worth 1/10 of Tom Waits. So, is Jeremy Renner worth more or less than 1/10 of a Christopher Lambert?
I think one Renner is we'll get to that. That's a deep philosophical question that I think I need to mull over while I introduce Ethan Chang, the current final member of our panel, but I think at least one or two more people are planning to show up tonight, so we'll see. But Ethan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I was disappointed that these movies didn't have all the classic lines that Scorpion says in the video games. I was hoping for more of those, and
I feel like the 95 one has all two of the classic lines that Scorpion says, plus like an additional "get down here."
Annihilation. We'll skip ahead a little bit. But, Annihilation has the guy who does Scorpion's voice grab Katana and teleport away in the worst CG you've ever seen in your life, and go in his Scorpion voice, go suckers.
Well, the guy who does the Scorpion voice is Mortal Kombat co-creator Ed Boon.
Is it? Oh yeah, yes. That's right. I don't know if it was Ed. Okay, a guy who's trying to sound like Ed Boon at least calls everyone suckers while teleporting away.
Nice. Well,
that's the only scene that he's in the movie. But anyway,
before we get too deep into the movies tonight, there's a couple of things that I think we need to get out of the way. Well, first let's start with the news, but I think we're bringing back another classic segment here for Ethan's sake in a minute. But we're going to start with the news. So.
This is Media Break.
Are you doing it?
Give us 3 minutes.
I'm doing
we'll
it.
Give you the world.
I don't hear it, so it's not.
Yeah,
happening.
you'll never hear it.
Talk over
yeah, well, apparently you're going to do that to all the sound bits. The next one has a lot of you in it, so maybe don't talk over that one as much. But either way, this is the news. I've got 4 pretty brief news bits. I think I might spend a little bit of time on the last one. The first one is that apparently Jim and John Thomas are suing Disney to get back the rights to Predator because it seems like Disney is not going to do a fucking thing with Predator. And they want it back. And you know what? It worked for Victor Miller. Victor Miller... Is someone vacuuming? Sorry. Victor Miller successfully sued Paramount to get the rights to Friday the 13th back, but not adult hockey mask wearing Jason Voorhees because he only wrote the first Friday the 13th. So basically he has the name and like Mrs. Voorhees, I guess. But either way, it threw a big monkey wrench in the video game and it getting like sort of continuing support. And so I don't know. We'll see what happens with Jim and John Thomas. It would be kind of hilarious if Gun Media left the Friday the 13th movie after Victor Miller's lawsuit to make or Friday the 13th game to make a Predator game, and now they lose the ability to do more with the Predator game because Jim and John Thomas get the rights to Predator back. That would be undeniably hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm in the minority who actually thought that the last Predator movie, while it was kind of a mess, was like perfectly fun and a perfectly cromulent fucking Friday the 3rd or Jesus, where's my brain at? Predator movie. You know, it wasn't, ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Rogers has joined the cast. But the last Predator... Anthony Rogers! But I don't know. I don't know how people felt about Shane Black's The Predator, but it was very clear that it was hacked to bits to make it shorter, but like I still thought it was fine. It's at least as good as Predator 2. Whatever. I would like to see more Predators. Low, it is a low bar, but I still think Predator 2 is fun.
But is there a golf ball?
I don't remember if there were any golf balls.
How many golf
in
balls
the Predator.
get thrown?
I don't remember.
By Bill Paxton.
I like that
none by Bill Paxton.
Say none, so that's.
I
good.
can't definitively say none. I don't know, Bryce. You're a big Black and Decker fan. What did you think of The Predator?
To be honest, what I heard about it was so dispiriting that I never even watched it. So
I would be curious about your take on it. I hope that Jim and John. I think that we have a culture that sometimes gives company ownership to personal creations a little bit too easily, and I would like to see Jim and John Thomas get the rights to Predator back. I think that would be neat. Second news bit.
I'm just gonna say, coming off of the high of Nice Guys that summed up absolutely everything I've ever liked about Shane Black, and asking to dive into some of like the choice clips that I heard off of that one, just couldn't quite do it.
So if you are expecting something on the level of the Nice Guys, you will definitely be disappointed. But again, I still thought it was a perfectly fun action, Predator movie.
Right.
But so this is weird. I didn't realize that Christopher Pike had name recognition that was worth anything, but apparently someone is going to adapt one of his adult novels, which I also didn't even know that he wrote novels that weren't for children or young adults.
How adult are we talking?
Not like that. But Mike Flanagan, who directed Dr. Sleep, is apparently adapting The Season of Passage for Universal, which I just thought that was so weird I had to mention it. I don't really have feelings about Christopher Pike in general. I feel like as a tween, he kind of always felt like
Captain Kirk, right?
Yeah, I felt like he always felt like a poor man's R.L. Stein.
Plays Captain Kirk.
I mean, I feel like that's like the kind of movie Mike Flanagan should have made right after directing the Ouija movie or the Ouija prequel,
not Dr.
after
Sleep.
everything he's done. Yeah, I can imagine. Just about literally anything I'd rather see him do.
I have not seen any of his films that I'm aware of, but I will say I heard the Ouija prequel was way better than the first Ouija movie.
Oh, it's way better than you would think that a Ouija prequel would be. The first 70 minutes are pretty good, and then and then all of a sudden you basically can hear the producer yell from off screen, "Hey, bring on the Nazi zombies," and all kind of goes downhill from there.
Oh, so it's a Ouija Call of Duty crossover, is what you're saying.
Yeah, let's go
that
with
was Uncharted as the Nazis.
Yeah,
they're like goblins, I guess. Actually,
point is that yes, it is way better than you would think it would be, but the ceiling is only so high.
Well, fair, but I was gonna say I also heard, even though my expectations for Dr. Sleep were in the fucking basement, I heard that was good too, but I didn't see it.
Dr. Sleep is great. Yeah.
Okay.
So's most of Hill House.
I'm gonna be Dr. Sleep tonight.
Hey. And so it is
not me. I didn't finish my degree.
So are most of his movies.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, maybe he'll do something interesting with a Christopher Pike novel. I don't know.
Stranger shit has happened.
Also, Alex, I believe you're registered nurse Sleep, not Dr. Sleep.
Please. Well, Dr. Sleep is actually a hospice worker.
Oh, okay.
So thus, he is not officially a doctor either.
Okay, well, there you go.
He's doctor because his nickname was Doc as a child.
Okay. Well,
because they like boats so much.
This is right. I got it. The second to last news bit is just a very brief one. Pour one out for Frank Mcrae, probably known best as the angry police captain in 48 Hours, who then played the exact same role again in Last Action Hero, and did a lot of those kind of loud talking. But he was a big guy, 6.5 feet tall, former football player. Movies as far back as Big Wednesday, which is John Milius's surfing movie.
Also great.
But also he was in Paradise Alley. He was in Rocky 2.
That's John Milius's third best movie, I'll have you know. So
what are 1 and 2?
Conan and then Dillinger.
Okay. He was also in that. So Frank Mcrae collaborated with John Milius a few times apparently. So yeah. Anyways, pour one out for Frank Mcrae. And the last news bit I have this month is just, this isn't really action movie news, but it's genre film news, and I am scratching my head so fucking hard at this that I had to talk to you guys about it and get your take on it. They're doing a reboot of Faces of Death. And,
cares?
And
Next
like...
question.
I'm gonna go with Alex on this one. It was bad then, it will be bad now.
Right, but like... What is the name? Like, okay, I get that, like, at this point, studios are just like, oh, this has some vague value of name recognition.
For it at some point.
People have been, like, posting, gory car wreck footage and, like, executions on the internet for the last 20 years.
Well,
we're doomed as a fucking species.
Right, I mean,
like, this isn't going to change the damn thing.
The joke I made when I tweeted about it was, like, it's just going to be a series of all the worst shit that was ever posted on Rotten.com. Like, but you're going to go see it in a movie theater.
Are you though these days?
Or whatever.
I have to imagine they're going straight to VOD on this shit.
I mean, you'd think so, but here I want to give you guys. I want to spin the concept for you. This is coming from Daniel Goldhaber, director of Cam, which was a Netflix thing that I didn't see. I don't know if it was any good, but this is the pitch. A female moderator of a YouTube-like website whose job it is to weed out offensive and violent content and who herself is recovering from serious trauma, stumbles across a group that is recreating the murders from the original film. But is the story primed for the digital age of online misinformation? The question is, are the murders real or fake? Which, of course, is always the question, like, as a kid... my friends...
Hashtag fake news. Hashtag fake news.
Well, no.
It's topical.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I changed my mind.
I guess.
I changed my mind.
This sounds like a fucking nightmare. Can we talk about something else?
It does sound like a fucking nightmare. But the whole thing, like... I don't know if you guys were all of the same...
how bad you are.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if you guys are, like, in the same... Like, in enough of the same age range that I am. I think Ethan and Bryce are, but Alex and Anthony, you're a little bit younger than me. But, like, this tape was, like, legendary among my friend group when I was a kid. And then the big debate was, like, it's real? No, it's not real, man. That's fucking bullshit. No, man, it's fucking real. And, like, some of it
Did
was...
you ever actually see it?
I never did. I never had the guts to watch it as a kid.
I'm gonna say that it was... Just because it was notorious doesn't mean it was well thought of or well liked. Like,
no,
it was, like,
of course
done
not.
by, like, the skeezy... It was, like, but the real skeezy kids who, like, spent their time behind the convenience store rather than in front of it or at the coffee shops. Like, just shitty. Let the shitty things in the past stay in the past.
Well,
like,
that we're past that apparently. Every movie production company is going to grab some fucking property from the '80s that they view as some name
Mortal
recognition.
Kombat. So...
Yeah, right. Well, now hold on, but before we get there,
He's doing like it's like the ragtime version.
Yeah, right. It is. Anthony's doing the Scott Joplin does the Mortal Kombat theme. That was the vaudeville version.
I would have given this movie double its score if it had actually used that.
Yeah, right.
Music, so.
All right. Since we're talking about the song.
Well, hold on. We're not.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'm gonna give Ethan a little bit of space. So I'm gonna drop the classic sound bit for I watched a thing and Alex is cool, and Ethan can have the floor for a minute. So I'm putting the sound in here.
Hey guys, guess what? I watched a thing.
I don't know how long the queue is, so you'll have to tell me when to go.
I will.
Hey, it's a good thing we're not stepping over this queue, isn't it?
And Alex.
I didn't talk over it.
You talked over the end. You talked over Anthony saying, and
The
Alex
best
is
part.
cool. All right, so Ethan, I don't know if you ever actually watched Hard Target and can give us a little bit of your thoughts on police unions, but I do know that you watched the Matrix sequels on an airplane, and you wanted to vent your spleen about those a little bit. So take it away.
I mean, first of all, the only
Vent
good
your
pig is a dead pig.
spleen.
But about the Matrix 2 and 3, so I took my my first couple plane flights since COVID, and I'm double vaccinated, so it's all good.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I love to ride on an airplane, and the movie selection on Alaska Airlines featured all 3 Matrix movies, so I decided that there was no better opportunity to watch The Matrix.
Wait, where did you go? Did you visit me? I mean,
I
why
did
didn't
not
you visit
visit
me?
you.
Then why not? Aha, entrapment.
Because you're fucking insufferable. That's why.
That's fair.
So,
okay, go ahead.
But Ethan, did you watch them 2 on the way there, 3 on the way back, or was this a double feature on one?
I watched like 80% of Reloaded on the way there, and then I watched the rest and Revolutions on the way back. I didn't even like bother to look at the movie selection in time to finish Reloaded on the way there. But so like picture this. I imagine like most of the people who would be listening to this have seen those 2 movies. So imagine you're watching those 2 movies for the first time on a cell phone screen on a plane, and you've been wearing a mask for like 4 hours. So you've got this kind of like dull front of head headache from just like huffing your own CO2 for hours. And then like the din of the plane, because it's like the low frequency noise kind of vibrating your skull. And there's like the anxiety of travel. So
as someone who's ride or die, I don't know if that's the best or the worst circumstances under which to watch those movies, actually.
I was actually going to say I find that interesting because I think, as I said when we did the Matrix show last summer, I watched both of those movies on literally the largest screen that was available in my metropolitan area. So the fact that you saw them both for the first time on the smallest possible screen is...
Oh, that was your first time. Oh,
that was my first time seeing them.
That's terrible.
So
I hope you don't have a negative opinion.
Well, here's what I'll say about them. Like, I went into these movies with... I don't know that I've ever gone into any movie with lower expectations. And because I mean,
that can be a savior, man. That can save a movie if you have.
It's been almost 20 years of people telling me those movies are shitty, like, and that they pretend they don't exist. And correct me if I'm wrong, that they were not originally conceived as like they were invented after the first movie became like
after the first one was successful.
I think it's. I mean, I think that's. I have a feeling that as nerdy as Wachowskis are, they had some kind of framework for what they wanted to do afterwards. Like, I don't think that they walked into the first one without anything in their back pocket. So,
but the first one's obviously, it's made so that it can stand on its own.
Yes.
So I think here's what I thought, and I'll keep it brief. What year did these come out? Was it 03, 04?
02
I think they're both
03.
03. I think they're both 03.
Oh.
Okay. So I think around that time, that was the prestige TV era, but it was still the era where, like, we knew what a prestige TV show was, but they were kind of few and far between.
It was The Sopranos, and that was about it.
The Sopranos, and like there was no like.
The Wire wouldn't start till the next year, right?
Breaking Bad. I think maybe Deadwood had started already.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. I think Deadwood started.
And The Wire.
The Wire was the next year. The Wire was 04. I think.
So, yeah, you could have counted all the prestige TV on one hand, maybe two.
And it was all on HBO.
Yeah, and I think
which wasn't
that basically
it was not TV.
Yeah, it's not TV. Oh, Oz was on HBO by then for sure too. Yeah.
So I choose to view the Matrix trilogy as one movie which kicks ass and it's amazing, and then they did 2 follow-up TV seasons, and you're bought into the characters, you're bought into the universe, and you're in quarantine, even in like
in
a captive position, like you're on a plane or something. Yeah. I mean, so you're sitting on your ass. You don't have anything better to do, so you put on this show that takes place in a universe that you already like, and you watch season 1. And season 1 is like, this has it's a little too much in every way, but it has a sprinkling of the things that I like. So whatever, and it's 13 episodes on HBO, so it's a 13-hour series. Then you watch the second season, and the second season is like, it's clear that there've been some staffing changes, like definitely writing changes. Definitely every episode is like written by a new director, and it's all over the place. It's kind of exhausting. There's like 1 or 2 episodes that are good and memorable, but most of the time it's just like, whatever, I don't care. But like you're deep into this lore by this point, so this is like you're watching these shows as you're playing on your phone. like you're disengaged. And I think that that's what the series is, except the problem is that instead of being 13 hours long, these are 2-hour movies. And they are just so condensed and so exhausting, especially the second one. Like, I just wanted Revolutions to be over so bad.
Yeah.
Like, starting 30 minutes in, and it wasn't because it was like, this is so awful, I want it to be over. It was like,
just as much as the people in Zion wanted their revolution to be over and for them to succeed. You see, it was all a metaphor.
See, it's secretly brilliant. It's secretly brilliant.
The whole thing was like previously on Game of Thrones or whatever, and then it lasts for 2 fucking hours both times.
Look, you know what? This is more positive than I was expecting. All I'm gonna say is, you've heard me talk about these movies ad nauseum. I go into why I think they're interesting on the Matrix podcast. I'm not saying that they don't have issues, like especially this time out. Last couple times I've seen it, I should say, Revolutions has some like real just inherent structural flaws that you really can't get around. It's built mostly around characters that you just kind of don't give a shit about until it gets to the end, and then it becomes interesting again. But at the end of the day, I still say that both of these movies are more interesting than the movies that the fans wanted them to make, and it's more interesting than the movies that we would have gotten if the fans had gotten everything that they wanted. And as far as I'm concerned, that's all I really give a shit about. I think they're two very interesting boundary-pushing experimental films, and I'm very happy that both of them exist rather than what we would have gotten from them in the MCU era. So yes, it's back when studio films occasionally took a risk, and even if everything doesn't pay off, it's still a lot of fun for me to watch, and I still get a lot out of both of them.
I'll agree with that. I mean, like, they are certainly weirder and more like the narrative is more strange and broken than you would see. Like, absolutely, I would rather watch, I think, even Revolutions than basically anything MCU again. But yeah, it was like I wanted to just like go to bed.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to tonight's double feature.
Actually,
triple feature.
I think both of them. I think sorry, Alex, for both of them, I want to go to bed is not a bad argument to make. Let me just save
all three of them. All I want to go to bed is
let me just go ahead and save our viewers some time. Here's the thing about the new Kombat MU is that it has a really fun opening scene and a really fun ending scene, and the problem is there's a fucking movie in between those two scenes. Wow.
Yeah,
I almost literally have nothing else to say about this
movie. I am going to go a little more in depth with my pacing issues with the new one, but let's start with Mortal Kombat 1995. Paul Anderson, not yet WS. You get that song right off the bat. This actually the best thing about the 95 movie is the soundtrack. It's got like
absolutely
Fear Factory, fucking KMFDM, the Mortal Kombat song. Orbital starts playing at the end after they like win, and it's like the happy ending song is fucking Halcyon and On by Orbital. But it's like the soundtrack this is one of those soundtrack albums that like most of if you were any stripe of weird kid in 1995 or 96, all of your friends had a copy of the Mortal Kombat soundtrack.
I sure did.
So to pretend that I'm a guy who's 5 years younger than I am, pretending to be a guy who's 15 years younger than I am, the soundtrack does in fact slap. So there's no getting around that.
Yeah. So I like this is Paul W.S. Anderson making his entree to the genre that would make him famous, which is video game adaptations.
Really shitty.
I'd like to point out
movies.
that I kind of get annoyed by Paul W.S. Well, I got annoyed with him for a lot of reasons, but I'm annoyed now because people have the internet's kind of turned him into this goofy like wife guy, and they also kind of use him as a stick to like beat Zack Snyder's apologists with. But can we point out that this guy runs sets so habitually unsafe that he was held liable in court for like the loss of a woman's arm? He has literally caused the dismemberment of his cast, and like for as much shit as you hear about like some people, like most of them have not literally disfigured their stunt people for life and then gotten away with it and have turned out to have rosy reputations afterwards. And I think it's kind of odd that we've all just decided to let that one slide.
I legitimately...
In the words of J. Walter Weatherman, this woman has lost her arm, and none of it would have happened without Paul W.S. Anderson. So...
I literally did not know that I did not know that story, legitimately, until you just said that. I don't like Paul W.S. Anderson fucking anyways, but I didn't know that story. However, at least he's not John Landis, because that motherfucker skates real fucking hard, and he killed a child.
He killed multiple children, but really is the didn't kill multiple children bar the one that we want to use these days.
Well, when it comes to Hollywood, apparently that's where we're going.
That's where we're at.
Anyway.
Yeah. So
notes in the chat.
Right. So
this is a disarming story.
Good Lord.
Oh,
so I don't know. I think this is maybe Anderson's best movie.
That's some smartest man.
Definitely.
I mean, I definitely think it is, but that's also like, can we just accept what smartest man in Sherlock?
Yes. I feel like you have to. Somebody has to give you a reason to say that once per episode of this show, and I just laid it up for you. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's either this or Event Horizon, which is like a shitty Hellraiser in space, but not as shitty as the actual Hellraiser in space movie.
This nor the Hellraiser in Space movie had a scene where a stranded astronaut surfed across the stars like he's the fucking Silver Surfer or something like that. So yeah, I think Event Horizon is just a complete turd of a film too, and I find its reputation as a cult movie completely baffling.
Sam Neill does some real weird evil shit, and like people love Sam Neill, and I think that's pretty much it. Like that, I think.
I was about to say, oh fuck, Sam Neill.
Yeah, Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne, and some other actors are also in the film. Yeah, right.
Jason Isaac. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Everyone just smoking in space.
There's a lot of smoking in space.
I gotta watch this movie now.
Yeah,
no,
you really don't.
You kind of don't. You kind of don't.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna put this in the chat. You've got to see this one image, and you'll see that I was right this whole time. How do you use a chat in this thing?
I'm not gonna tell you if you don't already know.
There
we go. Okay. Yeah, that's like the DVD box art right there.
Hell yeah!
So, good job, you found it.
Where's this movie been my whole life?
I don't know. Yeah, space.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely not the first time this movie's come up on the action.
No, it's not. Because every time Paul W.S. Anderson comes up, I go, I don't know, Event Horizon's probably his best movie, and Bryce goes, yeah, but it still sucks. And
yeah, but I didn't know Sam Neill was in it.
Anthony, it's your own negligence that caused this, just like the negligence that cost that poor woman her arm.
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't know if it's quite that bad.
There you go. So, but this movie is actually fairly competent. I didn't actually check who the cinematographer is on this movie, but whoever it is...
Yeah. Are we going to go all the way to competent? Like,
I'm going to go to competent.
I'd back that.
I've seen some movies where I'm just like, what is happening in this movie? This movie has fights where I just look at it and go, I understood what happened in that fight scene. I understood who was punching who and where they were standing. And, like, that is the bar for competent in an action movie. Absolutely.
That is fair. There are some parsable fight scenes in this movie, and I would never claim otherwise.
Also, Tom Woodruff with, like, a four-armed man on his shoulders in the Goro creature suit is pretty impressive by any standard.
That is the one thing that I will say that I think is legitimately interesting in this movie is that this movie might legitimately be the liminal moment between CGI and practical effects.
It absolutely is. Holy shit!
It's great because so much of the CGI is wouldn't even pass for animatic quality these days.
No,
the reptile you wouldn't get away with that as previs.
Reptile looks like a 1989 music video creature.
But it's amazing though because there are points where you can watch the limits of CGI and the limits of practical hitting their limits at the same time, and even as bad as some of the CG look, you kind of understand why they started to make that swift
So I will say
just for example, you're talking about Goro, right? And there's that big fight scene where he comes out and quote unquote kills all the human fighters, and they literally couldn't get the suit to function in the same shot as any of the fighters, so they just keep cutting to like the fighters falling down and like keep cutting to like Goro cheering, and there's never so much as like a 2-shot between them. And that's why I'm going like, are we gonna go so far as to like, are we going this as far as like competent here? No,
that is a competent way to cover the flaw of this fucking robot man wouldn't work right, so we covered it by.
I will take shitty Goro animatronic over shitty Goro CG in the new one any day of the week. The shitty Goro animatronic has like way more personality and is way more fun to watch, but like it's also kind of just really interesting to me to like watch like these matte paintings and like kind of watch these high water marks of physical effects and like seeing the ceiling that they're bumping against and going like and being able to like, as someone who has been established many times prefers practical to almost any CGI effects, can kind of go like, okay, I understand like why they got sick of like bumping against the ceiling and why they, you know, chose to like just like some of the stuff like the Black Tower at the end of the fight, like that looks worse than like anything in Mortal Kombat 4. You know,
that looks like shit for sure.
There are so many places where you like the tech wasn't there yet, but they're still.
So I'm gonna say
pioneers.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that this is still like this was still when New Line was not yet absorbed by Warner. Like New Line was still like a mini major basically, but they weren't rich. And like, I mean, you say that, but also like I saw Terminator 2 in a theater like at the beginning of last year, right before the bad times, and the CG in that movie, which was 4 years before this movie, still looks really good. And the CG in this movie looks like dog shit. So, I mean, I think part of it was a money problem. They were sort of like their reach exceeded their grasp, as they say. But I still think that this movie definitely is competent in my view, as far as like a mid-budget martial arts movie, and definitely as, I mean, again, smartest man in Turlock, but like this is maybe the best video game movie ever made that isn't an anime.
Well, basically all I have left to say about this movie is that I think it's really is kind of hilarious just how much the Johnny Cage character is written just play John Saxon, but then it's John Saxon as played by Troy McClure. And I think that's the last thing of value that I have to add to this discussion. So,
okay.
I have something maybe of no value to add to this discussion.
That's
because I know that
when has that stopped anyone?
If we go scene by scene in this movie, it's not going to get any more positive. So I just want to put this out here now. I'm not sure that this movie is good, but I think that this movie is perfect. This is a perfect movie.
I completely get what you're saying.
You know, as far as perfect is the enemy of good, I think you're onto something here.
Imagine,
that was good, Bryce.
I mean, there could be no one besides. I mean, like you, Joe, as well. But there could be no one besides us who is more just dead in the sights of the age range of who this movie was intended to be seen by. Like, it's a PG-13 movie that came out basically when we were 13 or...
Yeah, I was 12. I was 12 years old when the summer this movie came out. So.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. So it's like even a little transgressive that you get to see it or whatever.
This still had like, this was still when Mortal Kombat had like that whiff of the transgressive to it. You know, we are not like far out from Senate hearings about whether Mortal Kombat was corrupting our youth.
We're really not that far. We're like a year and a half. Yeah, we're like a year and a half out from Joe Lieberman holding up a Justifier light gun on the Senate floor and condemning Bill White from Sega. But I actually, here's a thing. This is my strongest memory of this movie. I had not watched this movie since it came out. And as a 12-year-old boy who loved Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2, because that was the most recent one when this movie came out, I believe, still. 3 might have just hit arcades when this movie came out, but there's nothing of 3 in this movie. This is all 1 and 2 stuff. I felt like the movie was not transgressive enough compared to the video games. Like, I was like, that was bullshit. Nobody's spine got ripped out.
Yeah, that's true, but I think that if it had been like the video games, then we wouldn't have been able to see it. Like, it was...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Video games were kind of a mystery to my parents. Like, if I sold them on the idea of me playing a certain video game, they were never going to see it. They didn't care. They
Yeah,
movies,
absolutely.
They knew, like they would maybe watch a movie to see if, like, they would kind of watch it before me to see if they thought it was suitable. I never would have been able to see it.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I get that absolutely. I mean, I understand why in this time they made a PG-13 Mortal Kombat, and why this year, now today, they made a rated R Mortal Kombat. That all makes perfect sense to me.
Everyone who was 13 then is now,
this 30, 38, yeah.
So, yeah.
So but that said, I'm still saying as a 12-year-old, I did not have that understanding of, like, well, first of all, my parents were chill. So even if it was rated R, my parents would have let me see it because my dad took me to see From Dusk Till Dawn the same year. So, like, whatever. But that being said, I still didn't have the mature understanding of, like...
Did he turn to you in that and just be like, son, never buy a pussy from Cheech Marin?
Yeah, probably said something to that effect, yeah. But...
Good. I just had to make sure he was looking out for you.
Yeah.
Context is important.
He said, I think he was more specific, and he just said, whatever you do, don't go for Naga hide pussy. I think I'm going to make the case that this I think is the best video game movie ever made, with the caveat that I have not seen Rampage, which I've actually heard pretty good things about, surprisingly, but still haven't bothered to see. But I did see Assassin's Creed when people were like, oh, this is the one that's actually going to be good, Fassbender, blah, blah, blah. And I saw that movie, and that movie was
Fuck said that, and why did you
fucking piece of shit. I don't remember now.
That's your fault, dude.
But,
honestly.
That's the people that watched those promos for Prometheus but didn't watch the actual movie.
Oh man, I think I might have enjoyed Assassin's Creed more. Well, Prometheus is a really gorgeous looking movie, even if it sucks.
Yeah.
And Assassin's Creed doesn't even have that going for it. So, but anyways, Mortal Kombat. Here's the thing with this movie, and again, like Ethan said, there's no reason to go scene by scene. But I'm going to say this. This is a movie that's a little bit more than 90 minutes long. It's like an hour and 40 minutes. And here's how it's structured. Act 1, get all the characters together and be like, yo, we're getting on this boat. We're going to go fight in a fighting tournament that holds, like, the fate of Earth is at fucking stake in this fighting tournament. Go fight. Act 2 is just a bunch of fights. And Act 3 is more fights. And that's the fucking movie, and the movie is based on a fighting game, and what I want is characters I know fucking punching each other and killing each other, and that's what happens in this movie. And like, you watch the attract mode. Yeah.
Then you play with one quarter. Then you beg your mom for another one, and you play with that one, and then you leave Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
And so many, like, especially the second movie we're going to talk about tonight, and I don't know about the other one that Alex watched because I've never seen that movie. Yeah. But every other video game movie I can think of just refuses to take video games for what they are, and like they're not. Here's the thing about video games, and people will probably, depending on how many people listen to this.
Tell me the thing about video games, Joe.
They're not good at storytelling. They're not.
No way.
But I've seen people be like, oh man, like the most amazing story I've ever seen told was Final Fantasy VI. And I'm like, boy, wait until you read Shakespeare.
Read a fucking book.
Mine's going to be... read Harry Potter.
So, video games are not great at storytelling, but they're good at, like, they can build cool worlds and interesting worlds and have interesting, vibrant, cool characters, and like this movie just sticks with that and is like, yeah, fuck it, they handwave so much shit in this movie, and I think it's great that they're just like, how in most movies people have like this journey where they grow as people, like in this movie Raiden just fucking tells them what they have to do to grow as people and win the fights. There's just a scene where the three main hero characters are standing in a courtyard and Raiden goes, you're too worried about being called a phony, you don't think you need anybody else to help you, and you need to let go of this whole revenge bullshit. Okay, go do that, and then let's fight some more. And then they go fight some more. And it's just like, yeah, because I'm not in this movie to see fucking character growth. It's a fucking Mortal Kombat movie. I'm here to see people get kicked in the face. And this movie gives me people getting kicked in the face. And getting killed, which is what you... like. like, you watch that Street Fighter movie or the fucking Double Dragon movie from the year before, and it's just like,
oh my god, I never saw that.
How did you slip on this banana
Worth
peel?
your time.
As much shit as I get this, like, yeah, it is better than both of those. Like, this does, like, it might trip over the bar as it's clearing it, but it does clear the bar of giving you a lot of action on an exotic locale in a death tournament. But you know, which is more than you can say for the new one. But
right.
At the end of the day, like, last night, for some reason, my wife like pointed to our shelf and wanted to watch Master of the Flying Guillotine. So of course I said yes.
Well, okay,
and, like,
you can't compare this to a.
But I can though, because both are equally available. And like, it's like the experience of watching Master of the Flying Guillotine is so much more satisfying than the idea of watching either the '95 one or the 2021. Like, once again, the 10 years hiatus since we did this cast, I have turned into a grouchy old man because I just kind of felt the same way I felt about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which is like, this is nice, but it's fundamentally wasting my time. And like, I out there in internet land am about to have a son. I'm about to have a father. I'm about to like not have any time to read a book or spend with my friends, or, you know, watch a Browns game, or any of the shit I like to do. So goddamn if I'm going to spend any of the last 5 months of free time that I will have in my life watching the goddamn 1995 Mortal Kombat movie. Why the fuck would I do that to myself?
Well, you just fucking did. And in fact, I'm just going to remind everybody here and everybody listening to this that Bryce suggested this episode.
Did I? You know what? I probably did. I probably only meant to do the remake, but that was because we were looking for something new to do, I thought.
The remake is worse! The remake is fucking worse, dude!
The remake is fucking worse.
Yeah, before we get to the remake...
Yeah, no, I'm not ready to move to the remake.
But you hadn't seen it at the time, right? Bryce, didn't you suggest this before?
No, I mean, I watched it, the last time I watched it, I was 12 years old, because, you know, that's the age you should be when you watch this fucking movie, and I thought it was pretty dope, but I hadn't seen it in the intervening 20 years because, you know, there's Bergman films I haven't seen yet. So, you know.
First of all, Bryce, let me just go back.
Golden era 70s kung fu that I haven't seen yet. And, you know what? I could watch The Master of the Flying Guillotine for an 8th time, and I'd probably be using my time better spent yet again.
Yeah, well, so I'm looking at the email chain right now, Bryce, and I just want to say, I want to quote Bryce Wilson on February 18th at 3:07 p.m. What about Mortal Kombat 95 to prep for the remake? Or do we want to save it for the next month and do 95-21 in the same cast?
Fair enough. Mea culpa. That sounds like something I'd say. I didn't realize that the 95 one would have, like, I mean, it was charming to watch, but like, it also just wasn't good at all. And I didn't realize that the 2021 one would just be so goddamn empty.
So I think that I don't think it's as good as Ninja Turtles, which I still think is a totally fine. Again, Golden Harvest and Jim Henson came together and made a movie, and that's fucking too weird to live and too rare to die.
I'm glad I ended up missing that because I'm on Joe's side on that one, and I think I would have been frustrated by Bryce on that one.
You can let Alex plays the
I
role
love that
of
movie.
you, so
yeah,
you know.
Okay, good.
So, but this movie, I mean, again, I hadn't watched it since I was 12, and I probably will never watch it again. But I will say that, you know, again, it knows what it is. It moves at a good clip, and the fights are there. If we hadn't gotten a recent renaissance of stuff from you know, Chad Stahelski and Gareth Edwards and all these people, this movie would actually be like, this would be a shining gem of an action movie in terms of the fight sequences. But we have gotten several of those movies in the last few years. But like the fight with where like Sub-Zero fighting Liu Kang, and you get a wide shot where the stuntman who plays Sub-Zero does a fucking like wall flip over his head, and there's like the final fight between Liu Kang and Shang Tsung is like they hold a medium wide shot for like 30 seconds while they're like hitting each other, and you can see their faces that they're not stuntmen, and it's like, you know,
this is true, and I give it props for that. But what I will say is that I found like I kind of stopped having fun watching the cast in a way that I wasn't expecting. Like, I've already explained Troy McClure for Johnny Cage.
Yeah, Lyndon Ashby he was a shit choice for for Johnny Cage.
I had fond memories of Robert Shue because weirdly, Beverly Hills Cop movie was like a movie that I enjoyed a lot as a kid too. I mean,
wait, Beverly Hills Ninja?
Ninja was a movie I enjoyed a lot, like as a 10-year-old.
That's Johnny Cage, or
Liu Kang.
Yeah. And I remember liking him in this, and always kind of being bummed that he didn't have a bigger career afterwards. But his character's just kind of written as a dick through the whole movie? Question mark.
Yeah, a little bit, but I felt that
Billy
way.
Madison's girlfriend is not really a convincing commando, weirdly enough, and I have a lot of fun watching Christopher Lambert,
this is
what's his name?
Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa.
Yeah, Tagawa is still very meme-worthy, but I wasn't having a lot of fun watching these characters or the movie in general. So at a certain point, you just kind of go, "What is it I'm doing here?"
So you watched Annihilation. That's what you should have done.
The two things that I came away with, honestly, was that Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa, I'm surprised he didn't have more prominent roles in Hollywood as a villain in action movies. He was in. We talked about one of his other movies, Showdown in Little Tokyo, which I got on Blu-ray in the last Warner Archive sale, because there's only one movie in the world where Brandon Lee tells Dolph Lundgren he has the biggest dick he's ever seen, and that's the movie you got to have in your collection. But Tagawa, I feel like what happened? Why didn't his star, at least in that particular role, in that archetype, rise? He feels like he, would have had a longer career. And Robin Shou, I feel like Robin Shou, he's good looking, he's pretty charismatic, he's in good shape, he can do martial arts. He feels also maybe Beverly Hills Ninja being so bad tanked his career. I don't know, but he also felt like he should have had a better career than what he got. To me, but
agreed.
I don't know. It's like you said, Reptile looks like shit. Goro with accomplished creature performer Tom Woodruff Jr. in the suit with this giant fucking thing on his shoulder. So basically, Tom Woodruff Jr. is wearing big thick foam rubber pants that are the Goro legs, and then on top of himself is the 4 arms and the head, and he's being followed around by a band of puppeteers who are manipulating the top 2 arms, and it's 4 people to manipulate all of Goro's facial expressions and mouth movements. And I don't know, man. That's pretty incredible, I think. And then he gets dick punched.
Better than Goro in the remake.
Yeah, agreed. Same.
Agreed. As much shit as I give this movie, I'll never argue otherwise.
Also, my man Art deserved better. Speaking of Goro, Art deserved he deserved more. I don't know why they didn't use a real Mortal Kombat character in Art's place, but I got love for Art, so
I really like the through line between the quickening in Highlander being lightning stuff and.
Yes. Although I gotta say, unironic props I'll give this movie is that I like the effect of having Raiden's eyes sparingly flicker up to accentuate scenes rather than just constantly being glowing and just getting very distracting. I thought that was
the new one. The new one, there's too much of that.
Well, in all fairness, though, I know that Lambert wouldn't be okay to cast him today, but you can kind of see the logic because he's from Outworld, and Lambert is, as we know, from lots of different places.
So, I know he's from France, but his accent is still so weird that I'm always like, I don't.
And then, of course, he's got the way that he talks that is completely not part of his accent at all.
Right, the weird cadence with which he speaks.
I can't tell if it's a put on or not. Is he doing that on purpose?
I don't think he even knows anymore. So,
yeah,
because there's some. I saw him in something recently where he's doing that voice nonstop, as he does, I think, in a lot of his roles. But then, he does that in his first line in this movie, and then he speaks entirely normally for his second line. So it's like listening to Bobcat Goldthwait, speak normally or something.
But you know when Bobcat does it, he's doing it for effect, because then he'll go right back to the weird voice for the punchline, or it's like Sam Kinison speaking softly, and then he's about to scream something at you. So I think maybe Lambert does know. I don't know. It's hard to say. I couldn't say for sure. Also, we touched on this a little bit, but I think that just having Ed Boon do the Scorpion voice is probably the best decision they could have made.
Oh man, I did some detective work at the very end for the Emperor's voice.
It's Frank Welker.
I couldn't figure out. Yeah, but specifically, it's because he just used the Cave of Wonders voice from Aladdin.
Well, it's not the Megatron voice. We know that.
It was in my brain. I was like, "What is this?" And I was like, looking. I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not Megatron." I'm like looking through his IMDb. I'm like, "Aha!" It was the Cave of Wonders.
Yeah. So I will say that I don't expect a big budget action movie from 1995 to exactly be progressive, but I will say that Sonya getting fucking kidnapped and then them straight up being told that she cannot beat Shang Tsung that was some bullshit. I was just like,
that was definitely some bullshit.
I was like, okay, couldn't be Johnny Cage, couldn't have him get kidnapped and then be told like, no, he can't beat Shang Tsung. He's a fucking chump.
He's a movie star.
He's a movie star.
Everything.
Yeah. And Al Leong is not in this movie, but Gerald Okamura is, and that's like the second best thing to having Al Leong as like a random bad guy in your movie.
That's one of the souls.
One of the souls, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Round boy.
Yep. And the only other thing that we already talked about the soundtrack. The only other thing I had to say is that, like, going back to how little this movie gives a shit about the rules or the lore or any of that isn't just punching. At the end, we get to a point where it's like, Shang Tsung, like, he's going to take Sonya and he's challenging her because he's the old tournament winner, so he can challenge her. And then if he wins, then, like, they win and they get to invade. And then, but they're like, no, but she can refuse to fight. But then when Liu Kang shows up, he's like, I challenge you, Shang Tsung. And he, like, can't refuse to fight Liu Kang.
Well, he says something like, I don't know. I've figured out he says some dialogue that doesn't make any sense, and it takes away all of Shang Tsung's power. It doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Now they're going to kick each other.
This movie, it knows where to spend its time and effort, and it knows where to cut and run, and it makes those decisions perfectly, I think.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know the actors' names. I think that Liu Kang and Johnny Cage are both played very charmingly, and I would say that Sonya it's one of the most wooden performances I've ever seen. But in a way that feels like in a way that feels right for the movie, though. Like, it needed one performance that's just like, you know,
I can see
beyond
that.
Awful. It has good creature effects, and I would say that the moment, I mean, in general, watching it, like, it's not good, but it made me feel kind of like it brought back the feeling that I felt when I first saw the movie, which, I mean, I knew what a good movie was when I was 12, but I still could appreciate a movie like this in a way that I usually can't now. So it kind of brought me back to that frame of mind. And I would say that the moment where I decided, kind of like in my adult brain, that this movie is perfect and it's a perfect duel is where I think the tournament begins, and there's a couple fights, I think, and then for the next fight it just changes stages.
Yeah.
Incredible. So good. Just like, we have no idea how Johnny Cage got
doesn't matter
paper forest.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I was about to say, I'm not sure, because I didn't rewatch it. I was like, I'm not sure if he's talking about Johnny Cage in the forest, but I think he's talking about it. And then exactly. It's great.
Literally, there's a hard cut, and so he can fight Scorpion, because Scorpion's in the forest.
In the forest.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, because there's a forest stage in Mortal Kombat.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Mortal Kombat 2, actually.
Right. Yeah. But
he gets to change. He changes stages. That's like maybe the one kind of close to, I mean, I don't think Mortal Kombat 3 was even out, but like kind of Mortal Kombat 3-esque, how he, I guess he goes through a portal.
He doesn't get
but he ends up in hell, kind of.
Yeah, and I like that set too, the hell, like shoots and ladders from hell set where he fights Scorpion.
You see it kind of close up, and then he kind of regains his bearings, and the camera just abruptly zooms way back, and you get a sound effect for the zoom. Like
yes,
this movie was made with joy.
Yeah.
Did you like the like gymnastics ramp in the Sub-Zero fight?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The fight, I think I legitimately enjoyed the Johnny Cage Scorpion fight. I legitimately enjoyed the fight at the end. Like I think they're the Liu Kang Sub-Zero fight up until it's just like throw the water at him. You know, but it's
the element of life, Joe.
Yeah, the element of life. Water.
Whatever,
I like that he has to say it. That's this movie just beats you over the head with, you know.
He's a fighter, not a thinker.
She says it. She says it in the previous scene. Then she shows up to watch the fight, and he looks at her, and it like echoes in his brain out loud. Yeah. And then he says "water" in case you didn't fucking get it yet. But yeah, I don't know. I think for what it is, it's totally perfectly cromulent. I think as like a baby's first, you know, martial arts tournament movie, it's the kind of thing that I would like show my nephews to be like, this is what a martial arts movie is.
Yeah, definitely.
To turn them off in martial arts forever, essentially. Show your nephews Master the Flying Guillotine.
Yeah, right. I mean, I gave them my old Bruce Lee box set when I got the Criterion one, but I hope they don't watch The Big Boss first, because I like that movie, but holy shit, that movie's got some downtime. If you start at the beginning of Bruce Lee's career, you get a lot of movie that isn't fighting. And speaking of that, damn it, I was going to say let's talk about the remake, but we actually have to. Alex has to tell us about Annihilation.
To put a cap on this first movie, let's take bets right now. Bryce, you're having a son.
Yes.
Who thinks that he's going to be dragged into watching this movie a third time in his life?
I don't think so. I don't see it.
We will find out.
I think you'll try. I think you'll fight it, but I think it'll make it that much more enticing.
I feel like by the time...
Do you think like a kid who's going to be like, 10 in 2031 is going to be like, let me watch the 1995 W.S. Anderson classic?
Exactly. Yeah, Alex is exactly correct.
Kid would have to be an even bigger nerd than me to be pushing for that one.
Yeah.
So, no.
I didn't really get into movies that came out before I was born until I was at least a teenager, and by that time I wasn't going to watch whatever the equivalent of Mortal Kombat 95 was... that it will be for Bryce's son.
That's fair.
By the time I was into old movies, I'm not watching that one.
What could happen is when he's a little older, he could be like, Dad, can I watch Mortal Kombat 2021?
That's possible.
There we go.
If the game series continues and is still popular, then yeah.
I'll follow my sword and show him 95 to avoid exposing him to 2021, essentially. So.
Well, Alex, tell us.
It'll be like, this is old and sucks. I don't like it. Because that's how people I know who are like much older than your son is currently act.
I mean, that's how.
Scream in his face, you're old and sucks. Sit down. That's giving you dad advice here.
I'm just going to point out that my kid is currently minus 5 months. So,
right, that's what I'm saying.
I'd be surprised if you didn't know people who are older.
People who I know who I went to nursing school with, they're like, oh, that movie's old. It's from 1998. I'm like, what the fuck?
I saw somebody who's like not that much younger than the 5 of us say on Twitter recently that they don't watch movies from any before the late 80s because they feel like they all are old or look old or feel old or whatever. And I was like, you are missing out on so many. You're dead ass gonna tell me you're just not gonna watch fucking Taxi Driver. Or
I know someone who told me they wouldn't watch
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or Star Wars because it was made in the 70s. I mean, you do you, but you're fucking missing out on the best decade of filmmaking, which is the 1970s. You know.
Yep. Have fun having a worse life than me.
If you're gonna dip out on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you don't deserve it. I guess is really what I'm trying to say. But so Alex, regale us with tales of Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
I just really want to point out why I didn't watch this one is that I watched this once on VHS, and this is one we talk about being younger and whatever, but even at 11, I think I recognize this movie as just total dog shit. So you know, it's it's so fucking bad that I didn't. want to re-expose it to myself, but apparently it went right around the bend for Alex. So let's hear it.
I think I don't remember if I talked about this like during an episode or just like when we were just talking about stuff, but like this is a movie that like amongst my friends like holds a special place, and we still like reference it all the time because obviously, yeah, this movie fucking sucks. Like this movie's awful, but we knew that
when this came out.
When was it? 97? 12?
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
I was 12. So yeah,
I was 14, and there is a big
between
being 12 and 14 and watching a movie like this.
No, but that's what I mean is like even at 12 we were like, dude, this movie sucks ass. But like it's funny. It's like it's so bad it's good.
You will die.
I was gonna say, yeah, like there's a ton of like line deliveries that I'm just like, why? Like like, and even as like a child I was like, oh, that was the decision they made. Okay. Like
so I don't know if this is apocryphal or not, but I have heard, and maybe you know, or I'm actually kind of trying to look it up right now if I can, but that this movie did very well in test screenings, so much to the point that that like New Line or whoever was like, fuck it, we're just going to release it now because the test screenings were so positive, and like the final effects weren't done when it was released into theaters. So it's like, that's part of why it looks so shitty, is that like it's basically not finished.
Really shitty. It has a bigger budget than the first movie, but it looks so bad, just nonstop.
They just hadn't spent some of the money yet.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know about what Joe was talking about, but I do want to open with a line in the opening scene that the bad guy Shao Kahn says, which is that the Earth was created in 6 days, so too shall it be destroyed. Now, hang on. That's already fantastic screenwriting, but it gets better. And on the 7th day, mankind shall rest. ... In peace. That's the kind of film we're talking about here.
I know academically that I saw this movie once. I don't remember anything about it. I'm like,
oh man,
flipping through scenes right now, and like I keep muting myself because I'm laughing.
So the thing, first of all, like I said, just broadly speaking, the special effects work is awful across the board. It opens with a terrible day for night shot that is also a bad green screen effect with like crazy shit in the sky going on. So it's like a double whammy of like, wow, this just looks like shit. And then Raiden's got bad lightning effects. Johnny Cage has one line in this movie because I guess they only had Lyndon Ashby for like a day, so they're just, his one line is, "This is not good," and then he jump kicks Shao Kahn. He just like breaks his fucking neck.
Is it the same actor? Because I remember killing him off. Okay, because I was about to say, like, I can remember being incensed because that they.
He dies in like 2 minutes, literally.
Yeah, that they pulled the old Adrian King on Johnny Cage, because back then I didn't know any better, but yeah, I thought that they also recast him. So this just goes to show that this basement we're in for most of this movie. So
yeah, it's just, so the opening scene is that like, hey, they did it, they won Mortal Kombat, and a bunch of kids are running around with flags celebrating, because I guess that's what you do when you win Mortal Kombat. And then it changes to just Shao Kahn just shows up. And this is, I wrote the dialogue down after the Earth was created in 6 days and all that. I wrote the dialogue down because it's so good, which is Kitana says, like, somehow he's opened the gateways to your world. And then Liu Kang says, but, I thought our victory closed those portals for good. We're supposed to have, like, a generation of peace or something. And then Raiden just says, that which closes can also open. And that's the only explanation given. And then immediately after, like, weird edit to Sonya Blade just goes, what's that supposed to mean? Very wooden and bad. And then she gets interrupted by someone going, yo! And then Sindel just shows up. And it's like rapid fire. Everything, like, all this exposition is happening that's really like not even exposition because it's so poorly written, and like it's all in the span of like 10 seconds, and there's just like horrible edits. Joe already said it, but Kitana says, "Mother, you're alive," and she goes, "Too bad, you will die." Which, like, that's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. Me and my friends, like, we're all like mid-30s now. We still say that, you know.
Johnny Cage was a different actor. It wasn't Lyndon Ashby. It was Chris Conrad.
Was it? Good. I'm glad that my you know what? I'm gonna. I can't remember my wife's phone number, but I'm glad that I will go to my grave knowing that they recast Johnny Cash in that terrible movie that I watched once before junior high. So, you know, but fucking fantastic.
Yeah, anyway, this movie rules. It's just more of that. I think the first half an hour of this movie is hilarious, and then there's 40 more, and then the credits are 10 minutes long. Because I saw it was an hour and a half, I was like, oh, okay. And then like at 1:20, I was like, and it's like, oh wow, there's a lot of credits. But yeah, they do a lot of, like you were talking about, where like
a movie like this does just happen, Alex.
I know, right?
That's right.
We were talking about where the first Mortal Kombat is like smashing up against the line of practical and CG. This one's just over the line in CG. There's still some practical stuff in there, but like they tried really hard to be like, nah, we're gonna do a lot of good CG in this movie, and it's all bad. It's all so bad. It looks terrible, and it looked terrible then. But yeah, they get in those balls from they like Raiden's like, hey, we gotta split up, or Raiden, whatever, and they get in those like metal balls from American Gladiators.
The Atmosphere.
Yeah, and then like they like travel, they like split up for some reason, and then it's like why, but just so they can be in different locations, so they can get in fights, and then like fucking Liu Kang fights like Smoke, but it's like Smoke in the fucking like BMX gear like robot version. Because a lot of the stuff in this game is like from Mortal Kombat 3, so
right.
Like that's kind of where and then like Sub-Zero just like shows up for no reason, and he's like, the guy you killed was my brother. It's like and then Scorpion just shows up, and then there's like some of the worst it's like they do. He fires a missile and it explodes, but it's very clearly just like 4 firecrackers and then like a small model like falling apart. It's like, that looks, oh my god.
So I feel like, okay, so one, I have to say, speaking of robot Smoke and whatever, one of the trivia bits on IMDb's trivia page is Sector does not appear in this movie.
No, he doesn't.
Thank
Cyrax
you.
and Smoke do, but Sector does not.
Thanks, IMDb trivia section. Only 4 of 15 people found that interesting, in case you're curious. But no. I feel like Brian Thompson is not a super famous actor. He's very much one of those guys. Hey, it's that guy.
Yeah.
We here at the Action Cast, I think, know him best as both Night Slasher and Cobra, whose entire like arc is cut out of the movie in favor of a montage. And also as one of the punks in the Terminator, he's the one who gets punched through the gut by Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think.
He's also he plays Manny Fraker, the leader of the gang in Death Wish 3. I think.
Yes, actually, I don't think that is him. I think that's somebody else you're thinking of.
Internet, help us.
But I feel like
no, you're right.
Yeah, it's a different guy.
Right, yeah.
I feel like
he's another guy who's tall and has like kind of a long horse face.
Yeah, I feel like even though Brian Thompson is not very famous, he is fucking slumming it as Shao Kahn in this movie. Like James Remar also is fucking slumming it in this movie, taking over as Raiden. I feel like.
I mean, I think one thing that you could say about this, like maybe this is the only positive thing that it's possible to say about this movie, which is that if you were trying to think of the perfect like dime store recast of Christopher Lambert, it is James Remar. Like it's perfect casting. Like that doesn't mean that he like, you know, it's one of his lesser works, but still like it's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, you're not totally wrong about that, I guess, but Yeah, man. I don't know. I've only seen bits and pieces of this movie. I never saw the whole thing, and I don't think I ever will unless I'm like subjected to it against my will.
What you need to do is the next scene after where I left off is that Sonya goes to find Jax, who is at some military base. They say that like the worlds are merging together, so just like random people are showing up everywhere, just like killing random people because I don't know.
It's like Mortal Kombat 3, right?
Yeah, and so she goes to find Jax, who's like, who was not in the first movie, and for some reason is getting metal arms put on his body. It's not stated why.
Because that's from the video game. Because it's from the video
right.
game. That's the answer.
And what's great is he's lying down on a hospital bed in like a secret lab, and she just like walks in because they all ran away because like it's the apocalypse. And the operation's like done. He's like the metal arms are on, and he's just like strapped to a table, and like just nobody just like he's not even sedated. Just nobody literally like shook him and went like, dude, wake up. Like he's just there, just like taking a nap, and she just goes, "Hey, dude, wake up!" And then he's like, "Oh, what's up? Check out my metal arms."
I mean, wouldn't you say the same thing if you had metal arms?
He has one of the best lines in the movie, which is he says, "I wish I had these back in high school," which it's like, what the fuck? And then, but then she counters with, "You're gonna wish you were back in high school," which I'm like,
oh my god,
what the fuck?
I have questions about the screenwriting process for the 2021 movie, but none of it is really centered on the dialogue. It's mostly centered on the story structure. So at least there's that, I guess.
I only have a few more notes, which is just that in this scene, a bunch of random dudes show up, and then Cyrax shows up. So another dude in full BMX robot ninja gear. There's also a very terrible special effect where he hits somebody with his green net that he shoots out in the game.
Oh, yeah, of
and
course.
It like melts their skin, but it's very clearly like bad. I mean, it's like terrible CGI.
Wow.
But there also is one part where Sonya kicks a CRT monitor at a guy. Like,
nice.
That's like the one. Like some of these early fights, they're mostly bad, but there's like some parts of there where I'm like, that was kind of cool looking. Like it's actually like guys doing stunt work. And I'm like, cool, man. Like that's all right. Also, when Sub-Zero and Smoke and all that's going on, they're playing the song Fire, which is like one of the funniest songs you'll ever hear in your life. So I don't know. Let me find. I'll Google it after we finish here. But yeah, it's really fucking funny. But this scene ends with they beat everybody, of course, and then Cyrax sets to self-destruct, and it is literally they like run away. And it's literally they're just jumping away from a green screen that's like of a very shitty explosion. It looks like one of the explosions from what was that light gun game that was at every single arcade, like the Aliens?
Area 51.
Area
51.
It looks like one of the explosions from like that game, and they're just jumping away from it.
It probably was one of the explosions.
I mean, honestly, it's so bad. And but I mean, it literally is like the worst green screen shot I've ever seen. Yeah, definitely check that out. Peep that ish on the internet. Yeah, then there's like there's a bunch of really good. There's what I really enjoyed is there's one on location shot because Liu Kang's wandering through a desert, so they clearly just went somewhere like outside city limits and we're like, this is the desert, and they shot Liu Kang wandering for like 10 seconds, and then he wanders a little bit, and he's clearly in a set. Like they were like, all right, that's enough of that. Yeah, that's the problem with this movie. Aside from that, it's fucking garbage and sucks. Is that after this point, it's not like funny bad anymore. It's just kind of bad, and it's just like it just keeps going. It's like at this point, all the scenes are hilarious, but then after that, it's kind of like, there's only a few. Like most of the dialogue's just bad. There's nothing really funny. There is like one funny delivery where they're like, Jade, how could you trick us? And she just goes, it was so easy. And that cracks me up.
So just to
it's just really bad.
Just to take a look around, I feel like this is an indication of where fucking action cinema in the United States was in 1997. Because I'm looking at action movies of 1997 on line here, and boy, like. Some of these aren't even action. Like Grosse Point Blank is not an action movie, really. But
he has one scene where he fights a guy.
He does. He stabs that guy in the neck with a pen. Benny the Jet Urquidez. He stabs him in the neck with a pen. But double team with Rodman and Van Damme. They fight Mickey Rourke. That's that's decent. Fifth Element is of course fantastic. Boy, there sure are mixed opinions on Face Off. I don't really know that I want to open that particular can of worms. But like Air Force One, Spawn, Steel. That's the Shaq movie where he plays the Man of Steel from the DC Comics.
Oh, I forgot about
that. Fucking Tomorrow Never Dies, which is one of the worst James Bond movies. The Postman, Alien Resurrection. Like the good ones are like Starship Troopers. Men in Black is okay. We also got Batman and Robin and Speed 2 that year, as well as Con Air, which is a movie some people like, but I don't really know why.
I guess what I'm hearing is why didn't they just stop making movies?
Really.
They clearly had fucked this all up.
I thought you were saying we peaked.
Yeah, either or, Anthony. And what?
So that's where American action cinema was in 1997.
What's interesting about those movies you listed is I distinctly remember both Fifth Element and there's one more that you said
the other day. It's still great.
Yeah,
Fifth Element rules.
That one, and there was another one that I forget.
Face Off.
Massive list. No, that like we all know are good now and look back on as like, man, yeah, that movie fucking
Starship
rules.
Troopers.
Yes, that one. And like at the time, both of those movies, all I heard was, man, these movies suck.
Oh, I love Fifth Element when I
like
first time I saw it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, but like the general opinion seemed to be these are bad movies.
Well,
and
Starship Troopers
was a sea of garbage, and these were the two like life rafts.
Starship Troopers was that massively misunderstood in its time, right? Like there were a bunch of people who took it as not satire, which it very much is, and that was weird.
People acting in it didn't know that, though.
Whatever.
What were you saying, Bryce? What were you saying?
No, I'm just saying that. I mean, like, yeah, I get, actually, because Ethan's probably right, and that's why. But like, I'm just like, you have to be really obtuse not to read that as satire. Like, I mean, I get that people didn't, but like, I'm also surprised, like, still genuinely surprised. But hey, whatever.
But I think that movie was more just dismissed as like, oh, that's the one where they shoot big bugs. Like,
also Charlotte Rampling is in the new Paul Verhoeven erotic thriller, which is apparently like looking pretty good.
Sure.
So
it's a lot of words you just said.
Yeah.
I just need to throw out there the name of the guy. That song "Fire" is by Scooter. And please listen to it.
Good old Scooter.
It's very funny.
My favorite band from the 90s, Scooter.
Yeah, man. Dude, pretty much every Scooter song I've ever heard has made me crack up. So, like, highly recommend it.
Anyway, but, like, yeah, we can all agree that the 90s were a fucking wasteland, and it's so good that we don't have to watch bad movies anymore. Anyway, Mortal Kombat 2021.
I was going to say, anyway, let's watch a bad movie.
Yeah. I know I said I didn't have anything to say about the first one, but really and truly, I already mentioned that you have two pretty good an opening and closing scenes that's just sandwiched between this just fucking unrelenting slog of a movie. But literally all I have to say is one thing that none of you and pretty much none of our listeners is going to care about or even get, but I was so goddamn distracted through the whole movie that Kano just appeared to me for all the world to be a clone of Ryan Fitzpatrick, the quarterback, the perpetually B-tier quarterback, and it was so fucking distracting through the whole movie that I could barely think of anything else.
He did a job being a quarterback, so he just got a robot eye and just went to Outworld.
What I'll say about this movie?
He doesn't actually have a robot eye in this one, Alex. I will explain in a minute.
But we talked about like with the Money Plane, how it felt like a movie that wasn't just like geared towards 12-year-olds, but like
was written by one,
written by a 12-year-old. But the thing is, like, I've used written by 12-year-olds as a compliment for a movie. I really do think there's something kind of like hilarious about like getting into like that kind of id and that kind of like just vaguely pre-sexual id, and like movies that can pull that off, like say Big Trouble in Little China, are fucking great. But then like this felt like something from an untalented 12-year-old. Like, once again, like I'm like the moment that clicked for me was like every line that like Cabal says, where it's not like,
hey, you fucking mooks, it's me, Cabal from Mortal Kombat, you know.
It's not something that a badass lowlife says, and it's not even something that like a 12-year-old versions of a badass lowlife says. It's something that the 12-year-old's dim friend thinks a badass like lowlife sounds like. It was all so bad, and I'm sure we'll get to it like during that scene. And then I was just like, this, as with the money play, like I eventually couldn't tell if they were doing it on purpose or not. Like if they were like playing into the kitsch, or if like, because it's barely a fucking movie. Like, at some point,
when Cabal first showed up on screen and started talking, I immediately flashed back. This is an Action Cast throwback for y'all. I immediately flashed back to Ethan saying, Brooklyn is full of piss and smells like mooks.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to establish is like, you expect to see this in something like Money Plane, where they maybe purposely made like a bad movie as a tax shelter, and it was just easier to use this incompetent screenplay than to use a good one. And like that's the problem these days. You never can tell if So Bad It's Good is like actually on purposely done, or if it's like just purposeful kitsch. And as we've all established, there's nothing worse than purposeful kitsch. But like, there are scenes in this movie.
Well, yeah, that's Sharknado, like, right? It's like a computer's idea of what a fun bad movie is.
And like, but like, there are scenes in this that barely felt like a movie, and like I can't. And it's not even that bland MCU like focus group to like the ends of the world style. It's just like they didn't even bother.
That for sure.
It resembles that. Like,
it's not nearly
like,
as fun as like most of those movies.
They obviously want to make like 18 spin-offs and like 20 sequels to this, but like there's just that feeling of like it's like they forgot to put a movie in here. Like, it's a Mortal Kombat movie that is all based around Mortal Kombat not happening. And if you told me that was the premise of the movie before I watched it, I would have thought you were joking.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing.
They talk about the tournament, and I'm like, cool, we're gonna have a tournament. And by the end of the movie, there's no fucking fighting tournament in this Mortal Kombat. It's like the Street Fighter movie.
Gotta save it for the fucking sequel, evidently, which will definitely get made now.
Well, if this one does well enough,
and the Scorpion solo film, and the
they already did that. The Scorpion solo film was like a prequel. Or whatever.
Yeah, God forbid you put anything in your fucking movie. Like, it's just, it's dispiriting, is what it is. This movie was genuinely dispiriting.
It's sincerely fucking baffling because, like you said, like there's a really good action beat. Like at the beginning, okay, so the movie starts. It's 1600s Japan, and there's this dude who we will immediately recognize as Scorpion while he's still alive, and Sub-Zero comes looking for him and his family. And they have a fight, and it's put together well, and it's well choreographed, and it feels like the games. Like, he's fucking lopping dudes' limbs off with his harpoon, and they do this whole fight, and he gets frozen, and he gets murked by Sub-Zero, but his baby survives, and that's like his bloodline from here on out. And then after that, the movie immediately takes a gigantic shit, and I have to say, I really like Louis Tan, and I've Into the Badlands was a show that was not fully appreciated in its time, and I feel like eventually people will come around and be like, hey, that show that was on AMC for 3 seasons that had fucking Nick Frost like nunchucking people in the face, that show fucking ruled, actually. Because it's full of really well choreographed fights and stuff. And Louis Tan was one of the characters in that. He had a bunch of really good fight scenes.
Cole, the main character?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, if you like martial arts and post-apocalyptic shit, I really cannot recommend highly enough that you just watch like the first 2 episodes of Into the Badlands and see if you like it. 'Cause it's some of the best fight scenes I've seen, like, not even just on television in the last 10 years, but like for a lot of movies. The film, the fight's really good. Daniel, I can't remember his name. He's the lead actor and like the fight coordinator and stunt coordinator on the show. Jesus Christ. Anyways, Daniel Wu. And it's just like, it's really stylish. Louis Tan was a major character in that, and I was like, cool, this will be chill. And I go into this movie, and it's like everybody's kind of speculating, and people are thinking, and I'm myself thinking about like, well, you know, they say he's this new character who's not in the games, but like they'll find a way to work him in, and he'll stealth be a character from the game, right? Like some people are like, he's going to be Johnny Cage, but you start getting into the movie, and you're like, oh, he's Scorpion, right? Because like the whole setup is that like he's a descendant of Scorpion, and there's this whole contrived fucking nonsense about like, this is the part that I really super don't get. When Bryce talks about there not being a movie, there's this whole middle section spent on like, you have to find your fucking, what the fuck do they call it? Your arcana, your fucking like...
Your animality.
Yeah, basically, right? You have to
That's
find it.
That's in the second one. I skipped over all that. I spent
Right.
a huge section talking about that.
Your animality. That's the only thing I remember about that movie.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same fucking bit, right? And so it's just like you have to find your arcana so that you can like throw fireballs and shit, basically, right? And that's how Kano gets his eye laser, not because he has like a robot face, because like he taps into his inner ability to be an asshole, and he can shoot lasers out of his eyes when that happens. And so you're sitting there and you're like, okay,
why do they do that?
I don't know.
That's the question we're asking this entire
It's so
it's
baffling.
It's the same as Mario. It's like fucking like we got to make it realistic. No, you fucking don't.
I think I know why they did it. And I think it has to do with it. This movie is not. So when I went to film school. I have nothing to do with the film industry now, but I went to film school when I was like 19, and finished, and then promptly, intentionally washed out of the film industry. But I remember being like 19 or maybe 20. And it's fair to say I was like kind of like a young 19 or 20-year-old. So maybe I had the sensibilities of somebody who was like 17. But that is who made this movie. It's like the type of person who plays a video game when they were a kid and thought to themselves like, what if we made a movie of this, but it was like cool and it was like a real movie? Like, let's think of all the ways that it could be like a real movie and cool.
But like, why do you let that person write the fucking movie? Right. It's not, you know what would be cool if these people just fucking fought each other for 90 minutes. Like
it was like embarrassing because I watching the movie, I remember specifically thinking about, I never saw the actual show of this that apparently was good, but I remember when I was like 19 thinking about like, what would a really cool Castlevania movie be like? And I feel like it almost had like beats from this in it, like just like, because like so many video games are just the same, because like, there's certain kind of like you were saying, video games don't tell stories well. There's certain types of storytelling that have to do with like the progression of a character in a video game that like, if you were like a late teens idiot, you would sort of think of the same story beats for how to shove that into a movie. So, yeah, it was just exactly that.
I think you're onto something there, Ethan, and I think this relates to kind of what Joe was saying before, which is, and I didn't put this together while watching the movie, so I can't take too much credit, but like talking about like the Street Fighter movie and the Double Dragon movie, and like how those kind of like try to graft like a normal movie plot onto a movie that like transparently did not want that, and like this kind of feels like similarly ill thought out, like to the point of like of where what do you want to see in a Mortal Kombat film, and none of these things, and it's maybe not like, yeah, once again, I'm not going to overpraise the 95 version, but yeah, that's basically a movie asking, what would you like to see in a Mortal Kombat movie? Well, how about this, and some of this? But like, yeah, it's this feels like a something that's trying to be something it's not, and like whether that's a more serious movie or a more standard 3-act structure movie, or as I insinuated, just a life support system for a franchise. It's not a fucking enjoyable martial arts film. That's one thing it's fucking not. So,
Yeah, it's I mean, so we watched Street Fighter at PAX one year and then never actually did a podcast about it, but which is a waste of life, Bryce. That is an hour and 45 minutes I'll never get back.
But like Annihilation, that's one movie that I think I can even proudly say that like at 9 or whatever, just realizing this sucks. I'm never going to watch it again, and I never did.
Just watch a YouTube supercut of all the Raul Julia scenes. But it's just like, this is a game, there's a video game, and actually there's a really, really interesting long form piece that I can't remember where it got posted. It might have been Grantland when that was still a thing that was actively being written. But there's a long form, like, oral history of the Street Fighter movie that's really a really interesting read, because it was a total clusterfuck from start to finish in terms of its production, which probably was a factor, but like, yo, this is a fucking video game about 12 people who punch each other. And like, the movie has just de minimis punching of, you know what I mean? It's just like, there's one scene where two dudes are about to fight and like a car drives through a wall, and it's like, no, you were about to do the thing I want to see and have two characters I recognize fucking fight each other, and then you just decided not to do it. Like, yeah. Like, you know, and I mean, we can talk all day about Mario and Double Dragon again. Like, Double Dragon, here's the deal. These two brothers are friends with this lady. She gets punched in the gut and kidnapped by these gangs because they don't like the two dudes. And then the two dudes have to beat up a bunch of guys to rescue her. That's the fucking movie! Like, holy shit!
They need a magical medallion that's split in half.
And the T-1000 has to be there. And all of these, like, if the Warriors was a fucking cartoon, a Saturday morning cartoon, like, there's a gang called the Postmen, and they all dress like postal carriers. Like, that's what we need for the Double Dragon movie. Also, one of the brothers we should cast one guy who is a martial artist, and then one guy who was the voice of Aladdin, because that is, like, that's what we need in the Double Dragon movie, is fucking... Dream Team. It's just like, what, like, and this movie is still making those same mistakes fucking... 17 years later. It's just like, all you had to do was have characters we recognize fight each other. That's it. And like, they get there's a whole bunch of like little fan service stuff where like, oh, that's Kano's classic fatality. Oh, that's Kung Lao's classic fatality. Oh, that's fucking Jax's classic head clap like, there's a bunch of old school legit throwback fatalities, and every time that happened I was like, cool. And then 3 seconds later something stupid happened where they weren't fighting anymore, and I was like, this is bullshit. Why are we doing this? Like,
speaking of the Kano fatality, I just gotta say that I like that the Reptile in the OG Combat is a animatic basically, and yet the Reptile in this was way more charmless, and I had like way less fun looking at it. And I think that just kind of tells you everything you need to know about the difference between these two movies. So.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, it feels like the people who made the 95 one are at least having fun. And this one just feels, I don't know why they had, like, I think it's a problem with, A, the way people consume video games, and B, the way that a lot of, there's not a good way to say this without sounding pretentious, and I really don't want to, because people should enjoy movies for the reasons they enjoy them. But I feel like there are so many people who mistake like lore diving and nitpicking and finding every little Easter egg for like valuable film criticism or like understanding the movie, that they made a movie to appease those people.
Now let's not go too far in the other direction, because, you know, the fucking 95 one had a bunch of stupid ass fan service, and
I'm not talking, but I like the stupid ass fan service, but being like everybody's got this fucking birthmark, and here's how the fucking birthmarks work, and that's not even from the game. That's just
Johnny Cash literally does pin an autograph of himself to the corpse of Scorpion for no goddamn reason,
because it's his friendship in the second game. That's why.
Yes, exactly. So it's not like that these are problems, you know, that are unique to the...
I'm talking more... I guess I'm talking about... I'm not saying that the Easter eggs are a problem. I'm more talking about the lore shit. The shit where it's like, everybody's got a birthmark. The birthmark looks like a dragon, and we're going to set up this really obvious thing where Sonya doesn't have a birthmark, but you get one if you kill someone.
Her arch enemy does. What would you know?
Yeah, and it's like... And then there's all this stuff about like, oh, well, like the reason that all these people can throw fireballs and lightning and fucking laser eyes is because they found their fucking arcana. It can't like, it could. Why can't it just be like? Because sometimes in this fucking reality that we exist in for the Mortal Kombat movie, people can just do that shit. That's why. That's the fucking reason. He can throw his fucking razor sharp hat because he can. That's why. And it's just like the movie gets so bogged down in all this dumb bullshit about like the rule. Oh, you can't have we have to have the tournament. Oh yeah, but like none of the other gods are going to stop me, so I'm just going to kill you all now and then I win by default. And like, no, but I can't intervene even though I'm also a god. And like, we're going to talk about it instead of just punching. And it's like, there was some of that shit in the 95 one, but they clearly didn't take it seriously even a little bit, right? It was just... I think
it's got to be that they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, which is like, we got to put the shit in for the fans. Like, we got to like put the fatality in because someone will be like, I know that. That's the thing I know. I recognize that, right? Which is what people want.
But that's fucking sweet, right? And that takes 3 seconds, right? Like,
right. But so they got to do that shit, right? But then they also got to appeal to people who don't know what Mortal Kombat is.
I will laugh because to a certain extent, I was that fucking guy because I watched the trailer, I thought they cut a pretty good trailer, and like when they capped the trailer with Kano holding a beating heart in his hand, saying like, wins. I was like, that's fucking wicked, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like that was like I wasn't like walking into this movie being like, well, this is gonna suck. Like it's like I'm not immune to the fucking fan service.
But they're afraid to go full in on that because I think that's why they have the quote unquote realistic elements. Is so it's like, well, if I show this movie to someone who does not like or understand Mortal Kombat, they'll be able to understand it.
Well, yeah, it's like the mentality. It's like what Ethan was saying. It's like the mentality. Like, yeah, the W.S. Anderson version very much has that 12-year-old mentality. How successfully it pulls it off or not is up for debate. Like, yeah, it gets the vibe right. This is like very much like Ethan was saying, like the 17-year-old who now feels self-conscious about all the things he likes and has to justify it, and like, is feeling intellectually insecure. So he writes a real drama movie about Mortal Kombat, and it's fucking terrible because of course it is. Like. Yeah.
So here's where I'm at with all this, right? I will say that we're talking about like sometimes you say it feels like a 12-year-old wrote this and you mean it in the best possible way. I forgot to mention at the top of the show that I finally went back to a movie theater. Fully vaxxed crew represent. I went to a movie theater this weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw.
Did you die?
Yes, I'm dead. I saw fucking Godzilla versus Kong.
He didn't die, but he lost his arm.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I saw Godzilla vs. Kong, and that is a movie that feels like it was written by a 12-year-old in all the best fucking possible ways. I saw a giant lizard punch a giant monkey, and that is exactly what the fuck I wanted from that movie. I saw the lizard punch the monkey punched the lizard, the monkey grabbed this fucking weird flying dragon thing by the tail and fucking swung it around and smashed it, and then at the end... Minor spoilers, if you give a shit about that for this kind of movie at all, which you shouldn't, the monkey and the lizard team up to fight the robot lizard. And that's the fucking movie. And you know what? Tight. It fucking owns. It's tight as fuck, Alex. It's tight as fuck.
So here's the thing. Is I'm going to admit that this movie has a 3-star for me on Letterboxd. Thankfully large in part to the robot lizard there at the end. Because Lord knows I cannot give any movie with Mechagodzilla less than 3 stars. But would the 12-year-old really spend an hour talking about the fucking Hollow Earth and just like spend a lot of the movie just getting there? Because that was, once again, Kong vs. Godzilla was like Mortal Kombat, a film that had some really fun stuff in the beginning and some really fun stuff at the end, and then just had a movie you had to sit through. I don't think Alexander Skarsgård ever was given a piece of the script for that film. And I think Adam Wingard has 3 times in a row been given the easiest goddamn tee-ups in the world, and I think he has fucked it up to one extent or the other every time. At this point, I'm actually mad that I like The Guest, and there's a movie of his that like has the receipts for me liking, because I wish I could like just like just dismiss him utterly as everything wrong with fanboy cinema, except for the robot lizard. I grant you that the robot lizard was fucking tight.
Yeah, you know what? I will say that all the shit with Millie Bobby Brown was like, I didn't give a shit about any of that plot line. I did not give a single fuck about that shit. It could have been cut, but
I'm glad the Hut from the Wilder Person kid is getting work. I can say that.
Sure,
it's the one positive thing I can say about any of this shit. So,
but so first of all, I feel differently than you about all of the MonsterVerse movies so far. I thought Skull Island was Jordan Vogt-Roberts, not Adam Wingard, but Kong Skull Island was super fun, and I went into that with lower expectations. I liked King of the Monsters, and I liked Godzilla vs. Kong. I thought they were all super fun, and again, there's a little fat you could trim, but also, I have to say, even about this movie we're talking about tonight, Mortal Kombat 2021, I have to say, praise fucking be to a studio action movie or a studio genre movie, tentpole movie, that is under 2 hours long. Just like, can we appreciate that for just a second? Like,
yes, we can.
Like, bathe in it. Like, I fucking saw when I saw Batman v Superman when it was new. I saw it in the theater opening weekend with a friend of mine because I needed to know. I had to know. That is a fucking 3-hour movie that feels like it's fucking 12 hours long. It feels like watching the Russian version of War and Peace, except like even worse, and it's agonizing, and just that the studios have figured out like no we can go below the 2-hour mark and it's fine. We can do that. That's okay. I thought Godzilla vs. Kong was super fun and was a movie that a 12-year-old wrote that I enjoyed in that way, and this movie fucking fails on every level except, like you said, the opening fight and the ending fight, both of which are fights between Sub-Zero and Scorpion.
Yes.
So I don't know, man. It's the way they weigh it down with all this fucking lore. It's like, it's the same thing as fucking going back to Paul W.S. Anderson. Those fucking Resident Evil movies are just so up their own ass with all this fucking lore that the games also have. But, you know, I get to play the games and that part of it is good. So I don't have to worry about that in the games for the most part. 6 sucked ass, but you know, whatever. And it's just like going into all this shit. I guess I just feel like, I don't remember, Ethan, if it was you saying, or Alex, like the people who don't know what Mortal Kombat is, like they need something to kind of hang their hat on. But like, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. Like if you're going to see a movie called Mortal Kombat,
I feel that they feel they need to do
that. Okay, totally that makes more sense.
Yeah, they totally don't and shouldn't. They should just be like what you've been saying this whole time, which is like, yeah, dude, he's the ice guy. He's got ice powers. Mm-hmm. Why? Because he's the ice guy.
That's how it works.
The ice guy. Instead of like, well, he tapped into his power of the. It's like, shut up, man. Shut up.
And I mean, also to that point, I just looked it up. Mortal Kombat 11, which came out 2 years ago, sold over 8 million copies. So like the idea that people don't know who these characters. Some of them actually I didn't even know. And I played 9 and 10, but not 11. But like the dude with the hammer, I was like, I don't know who that guy is. And the lady with the bat wings, like I know there's an insect lady, but I didn't.
There's an insect lady,
but I didn't know who the lady with the bat wings was. I think she's supposed to be the insect lady, but she's like slightly different than the insect lady in the movie. But then it's like, you know, it's Kung Lao and Liu Kang and Sonya and Kano and Sub-Zero and Scorpion and Shang Tsung. And it's like, yeah, this is all... And fucking Cabal, who's a fucking, hey, it's me, Cabal! Hey! Which is just totally...
Brooklyn is filled with Goombas.
Yeah, so. Brooklyn smells like piss and is full of mooks. It's me, Cabal.
Yeah. Hey, it's me, Cabal. There's so the lady.
I also want to say that I'm not exaggerating that dialect at all. If anything, I'm underplaying Cabal's dialect in this movie. He literally is doing that the whole time that he's in the movie.
So all the characters I'm looking at, they're all basically characters you would recognize, except for the 2 people you're talking about are from like the period of time where they were making like shitty 3D Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that makes sense.
That, like,
Can I just point out my in a film filled with shitty dialogue, and this is like one of those moments where you can't tell if they're kidding or not, if they're just that bad or if they're trying to be ironically bad. But it's like Cabal getting Kano over on their side by telling him he can open up a casino in the temple, and it's like,
God.
Well, what are you gonna do that with when the world economy has collapsed because you've sold it to the nether realm? Like, this is like, once again, like, Lord be it for me to pick logical fallacies in fucking Mortal Kombat, but like, just like the basic the most basic character motivations you can get is like completely fucked. Like cause and effect does not exist in this universe, and it's all real bad. It's all just very poorly done.
It really is. And also the fact that they ever trust Kano at all for like even a second is also super dumb. And you see, though I will say my favorite dumb moment in this movie is when Jax finds his Arcana, because basically like, okay, he gets his arms frozen off by Sub-Zero at the beginning, and you're like, oh, okay, he's going to get his robot arms. Okay. So they have like some monks who come in and give him like sort of busted ass, right? Sort of busted ass robot arms. And then as Sonya's being crushed by a giant statue and he's like trying to lift it with his busted ass robot arms and he's like, no, Sonya. And all of a sudden that's how he finds his animus. And like all of a sudden they transform into like sick ass bulky robot arms. Just like a fucking transformer. I shit you not. They like grow new parts and then he's able to like lift the rock and like just throw it into this crevasse. It's amazingly stupid. It's brilliant. And then Cole, again, you're kind of teed up to think he's going to be Scorpion, like he's going to be sort of the reincarnation of his ancestor as Scorpion. Like literally Raiden gives him the fucking spear tip, the fucking harpoon, and it's like, here you go.
Can I just say that that's another dumbass thing, because like when they show Raiden picking up the baby and then they cut and you're like, oh, so he's brought the baby to the future. No, he's just like had the fucking baby hanging out for 400 years, just propagating other babies. Like that was like just like
who become
like,
orphans
basic,
and shit, and like
the basic visual storytelling is really fucking bad, you know. Anyway, sorry, continue, Joe, with this other dumb thing that the movie does.
So, but then instead of him being Scorpion or being like, there were some people again who are like, he's going to be like, he's not going to be Johnny Cage, but he's going to be like, he'll turn out to be like action movie superstar martial artist and he'll be Johnny Cage. That doesn't happen either, because at the end there's a sequel hook where he goes to look for Johnny Cage to recruit him to fight for the next thing. Spoilers. But he's Black Panther, I guess. Like he grows magic armor that like absorbs punches, and then when he punches back it hurts more. So I get, that's the only thing that was my read. They never explain it. But it feels like, yeah, he's Black Panther.
But swords.
Right, and he's got Billy Clubs but swords. But the basic thing of like, he gets like, Goro punches his armor and it like glows like it's charging him up like Black Panther's vibranium suit, and then he can like expel it when he punches back. I think that's what's happening, and it's just like dumb, even by Mortal Kombat standards. And again, it's just like, there's this giant cast of characters, and I do respect that they did restrain themselves a little bit and didn't do like any fucking Quan Chi bullshit or Shinnok or any of that really dumb shit. They stuck with just Shao Kahn isn't even in it. They just stuck with Shang Tsung, which I respect for that at least. But also, you know, you probably could have put more characters in if you hadn't spent the whole middle section of the movie like sparring in a sand pit for no reason. So I don't know. I think I'm running out of gas on fucking rambling about how much this movie pissed me off, because I mean, like Bryce said, you know, and it bears repeating, like there's a glimmer of a fun movie in here, and you looked at the trailer. Like I saw the trailer just like Bryce did, and I was like, fucking people getting their hearts ripped out. There's fucking Scorpion and Sub-Zero fighting each other. Like, yeah, I could be in for that. That could be super fun and dumb. And like,
can I just take this brief moment to tell you I told you so?
Sure. You never pass up an opportunity to do that. So
when have you not? When have you not? And this
I'm
time
just
it's
saying,
very well earned.
Listen, we have that shit on tape. Like that's all. That's all.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It is on tape.
I appreciate that Alex just tweeted the video for Scooter's fire.
Yeah. People need to know.
Yeah, right.
People need to know what Scooter did.
Yeah.
In that fire.
So yeah,
that video silence him any longer.
Actually,
so
really good.
I will say that this movie is, in my view, this movie is worse than the '95 version, but it's also more frustrating because there are moments where it shows you that it could have very easily been quite a bit better, and it's just not. And
you can't get better than perfect.
Like, since it's here, well, that's true. But here's the thing. I will say, if you have HBO Max, you should just watch the first fight, and then when it goes to the present day, fast forward until they're in the frozen MMA gym, and then watch the last fight. And that's it. You'll have fun with the movie. You'll spend 25 minutes maybe watching all the good parts. You know. I don't know. Anybody else have any thoughts? Anthony, did you watch it? You didn't watch the new one, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
You missed nothing.
You missed nothing except for
I watched the good one.
Annihilation. Yeah, good choice. Dude.
I should have watched the Natalie Portman Annihilation instead of any of these 3 movies.
Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah. Anyway, that's Mortal Kombat. If you want to see more Mortal Kombat story, play 11 because fucking there's so much talking in that game. If you want, you can skip all of it, but man, it's a lot.
Yeah,
here.
I liked 9 and 10. I don't know why I never went to 11. I also heard that, I mean, those 2 DC fighting games are basically like Mortal Kombat games too, but with less gore. And the second one has the Ninja Turtles and stuff, so like that's probably good, right? I don't know.
That'll give you your lost youth back, won't it?
I liked 11 a lot. The problem with 11 is that it's super gory because obviously it's Mortal Kombat.
Right.
And I'm at a point in my life where I'm just like, I can't really be around just constant gore. I don't think it's cool anymore. And like, because I'm an adult.
You're the one that suggested Fist of the North Star for us.
First of all, I didn't actually.
I would say I think that was me. I think I own that one.
Second of
but
all,
also you like Fist of the North Star, Alex.
Yeah, but that's different because it's not because you're only in there
because you're a
for
fucking
a little
weeb.
Bit. No, because you're only in there for like 2 hours, right? It's a movie.
Right.
Whereas here it's
not gore constantly either.
It's pretty. It's pretty fucking constant.
It's pretty constant.
It's a non-stop assault. Like because I would be like, oh, I'm gonna play fighting games right now, and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna play for like an hour, and it's just constant like squishing noises and constant and the gore is so over the top where it's like, okay, I'm playing like for an hour, I'm gonna see Baraka cut off this dude's head and eat his brain like 6 times at least. I'm
not saying this to be a dick. I'm genuinely curious. Like, do you think that's like a PTSD thing from like working like in medical? Because like for me, it's like, I'm not impressed by gore anymore. Like, if you like tell me like a movie's like, oh, so gory, like I don't give a shit. But like, you know, if I watch a new movie that's gory, it doesn't bug me. If I like put on Dead Alive or Evil Dead 2, it's not like I'm like disgusted or like taken out by it.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't 100% sure that wasn't like part of it. I don't think it's entirely that. I think it's more just that it's just like exhausting. It's like I don't want to spend my time being around this. Like, it's what you were saying, which is like about like, you know, the situation's different, but you're like, I have a son, I'm not, or like come on the way, I'm not gonna like spend my valuable free time like watching bullshit. It's like I don't have a son in this, but I value my time, and I don't want to fucking watch a dude eat a brain 1,000,000 times. I'm like, that's kind of gross, isn't it? Like, I don't want to see people getting.
You value your time, but you also play Final Fantasy 14, so like.
Listen, there's a. Humanity is a walking contradiction.
He's a pusher and a poet.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Yeah, addiction is real. But yeah, I don't know. That game was really fun. It's just like gross.
Does the new Samurai Showdown still have like the death strokes? I mean, those are less gore, or historically they're less gory than Mortal Kombat.
Like not anything though. Like, but yeah, it does.
Yeah, I'm not impressed by gore in and of itself, but I will say if somebody tells me there's some really neat gore in something, I'll be like, oh really? Tell me more. Like, I remember when I watched the Brawl in Cell Block 99 and I like texted my dad and I was like, you seen this movie yet? And he's like, yeah, that part where he scrapes that dude's face off. And I was like, fuck yeah.
That's Zoller's different. He's really found like a way to push some of this shit into like the next level and the uncomfortable level. And as you can hear me go on about it, Hard Target, like for the good and the bad. But like, shit, I just had an example. But like, it's just one of those things that you don't get penalized for anymore. That it doesn't matter. So there's almost no transgressiveness left to it. You know, like Sam Raimi couldn't have Evil Dead 2 play in theaters because he couldn't get an R rating for it. Like, even though that movie is like obviously a cartoon and a Three Stooges skit. Like, now it goes straight to VOD. Who gives a shit? Okay, no. Like, here's a movie I haven't watched, so I can't speak to how well or good it doesn't. But like, I feel like the last like oh, it's so fucked up, can you test yourself, you got to see it movie of a little while, has been Possessor, so yeah,
still haven't had a chance to take that one in.
17-year-old me hears about Possessor, like I'm lining up for that shit like the day it comes on uncut VHS, but like I'm not.
But I also heard Possessor is good. I've heard it's good.
I've heard mixed things. I've heard mixed things about it. But like I've heard some people say it's good. I've heard some people say it's bad. The one constant I've heard is it's so fucked up and gory, and like that's just not enough to get my ass in the seat anymore. Like you got to give me something more.
I mean,
like,
I think
aside from a Cronenberg kid trading on his dad's name.
I've heard enough interesting things about it that is one I do want to get around to. But I mean, I agree with that. Also, like the Can You Test Yourself movies, where they're explicitly positioned in that way, I think are different even than something like Mortal Kombat is a game with good fighting mechanics that also happens to have this gore that the series is just now it's expected, right? They kind of have to do that because that's what some people are playing for. But something like, I don't know, the one that always comes up is like a Serbian film, or like maybe not quite as much the first one, but definitely the second and third Human Centipede movies, where it's just like the whole thing is like, can you sit and like this thing pretty much admittedly has no real redeeming qualities. It's just like, can you stomach how fucked up it is and how far they tried to go? And I'm like, I don't care enough to find out the answer to that. Like I have no desire to ever see a Serbian film. I don't need to watch it. I just don't need that.
And it's funny because like I said, it's not that I dislike this stuff. I am an apologist for like 6.5 out of the 8 Rob Zombie movies. But like it just like it like a lot of times it's like goofy to me. I think like the last movie that I actually sat down, bought a ticket to, and like watched on the basis of like, can you test yourself, was Raw. Because like that could have really effective trailer, and like the film itself was just goofy to me. Like it kept trying to push these buttons, and every time it did, it wasn't like uncomfortable laughter. Like it just like came off as weird. And then I like, yeah, maybe this is just growing up into a cranky middle-aged guy, but like I saw like the trailers for Saint Maud, and that seemed like in this very same mode of Raw of like, watch these buttons I'm gonna push, and I was like, no thank you. I'm like, I don't think I want to watch you attempt to push these like buttons in this very hackneyed way. I'd just rather do.
I also heard that was good though.
Like so I
also like, haven't seen it yet. So I mean,
I'm not like Alex where I don't think I'm getting pushed off by it, but I think decidedly disinterested in it.
If I get the vibe that it's literally doing it for no other reason than to shock me and not like because it's part of like. Say what you will about the Brawl in Cell Block 99, and a lot of people have said a lot of things, but like by the time you get to that point in the movie, like this is a whole hog revenge picture, and you're just like, no, fuck it, whatever he's gonna do to these people, I'm fucking there for it. And it feels like the movie has to some extent earned like stomping a guy's head off into a toilet.
Yes.
As opposed to something like, again, my understanding of like, I've read a plot synopsis of a Serbian film, like including the spoilers that go all the way up to like, this is what happens at the end. And I'm like, okay, I don't know why I would be interested in watching that. Like, it doesn't seem like it's saying anything. It just seems like it's trying to do the most depraved fuck up thing it can do so that at the end you go, ew. And I like, that's different than there's this character who has an arc. There's a redemption there. He does a thing he probably shouldn't, but he's trying to do it for the good of his family. And he gets super fucked over by a bunch of corrupt motherfuckers. And now he's going to take it out on every last one of them, is different than just like, here's some shit for its own sake. Enjoy the shit. Like, yeah. But also if I hear like this movie kicks ass and also like, someone gets their spleen ripped out of their mouth or whatever, then I'm like, okay, let's fucking do it. Like I'm fucking in, but it has to be at least a little bit for a reason.
So what I'm hearing, Joe, is that you no longer will simply go to a movie just to test your might.
I see what you did there. No, I'm not really. I'm not. I mean, also gore on film very rarely actually like full on bothers me. The movies that have really fucked with me long term, the movies that have stuck with me, like there are like 3 that I can think of that have really like, after I left the theater, I was like, ooh, still thinking about that. And it still makes me uncomfortable. None of them have been gory pictures at all. It's all something else going on in there where I'm like, okay. So
yeah,
that's But anyways, I feel like now we've moved past Mortal Kombat at this point.
Wait, I guess if nothing else, these three movies should teach us that we should all move past Mortal Kombat. So,
I mean the movies at least, and maybe not the games, because the games although the games are also like they have the Terminator and Rambo and the Alien and the Predator and Leatherface and Jason and Freddy, and that all just feels kind of weird to me. But I guess Warner Brothers owns the franchise now, so they're just gonna do some shit, you know.
Gonna Disney us on up, man.
Yeah, because when I think of John Rambo, what I really think of is him like shooting arrows at ninjas. That's definitely where my head's at when it comes to John Rambo. I don't like.
Clarify that. John Rambo has not been in a Mortal Kombat, has he?
Yes, he has. I'm not. This was not me just riffing on shit. Yeah. All of those people are in Mortal Kombat games, recent ones.
Holy shit.
11 has Rambo and Terminator in it.
And RoboCop. Yeah.
Yeah. No Mary Cobretti skin yet.
Not yet. Not yet. But
we'll
you
get
never
there.
know.
Keep living that dream.
Let's see. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any. I'm pulling up the full. Oh, Spawn, the Terminator, the Joker.
The Joker. Yeah.
Although actually, I'm really glad that we were talking about him when we talked about the '95 version of the movie. But actually, Kerry Tagawa got a paycheck because they made a Shang Tsung skin of him for Mortal Kombat 11 DLC.
Good for him.
But yeah, Spawn, fucking Terminator, Joker, Rambo, RoboCop, Leatherface. I mean, the earlier ones were Leatherface. Freddy and Jason, I think, were both in 9.
Alien is in it, like from Alien and Aliens.
Yep.
He was fucking cheap as hell. He was super broken.
Alien and Predator, right? So you could do Alien versus Predator fights, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I don't remember, because I think that was 10. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And I think the Alien wasn't the Alien. I think it was like an Alien Predator hybrid or something. I don't remember. But it was super broken.
It's like, you know, what, like, okay. I mean, sure, whatever. If you know, that makes more sense in the DC ones, right? I can't remember what they're called.
Alien and Predator were available. But yes.
In the DC one, it's a bunch of comic book characters. So being like, oh, now the Ninja Turtles are here. I'm like, sure, why the fuck not? I mean, Batman's there. Why not the Ninja Turtles? But like, well, whatever. We're way off the fucking map now. It's late. I should take my dogs out. Anybody else got any thoughts on any of these fucking Mortal Kombat movies before we sign off for this month?
No. Don't bother.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you everybody for listening. I'm sad to report, or maybe just. I'm just reporting, I guess, is really what I'm doing here. That we did not get to the numbers with Hard Target did not reach the numbers that Time Cop did. So it's not Jean-Claude Van Damme.
It is doing well above our average though. It's doing about double what our best episodes do. So I mean it's you know.
I mean, you're not
number 4 with a bullet.
You're not wrong, but it's 207 streams or you know views versus like what is that one? It's like
I'm just saying that the algorithm
50,000 or whatever.
Yeah, no, it did goose to the same extent, but it still did
50,000.
58,000 last time I looked.
Wow.
58,670 as of this recording is how many people have listened to the time. Now, if you look at the analytics, they all drop off after like 2 minutes, which is kind of amazing. But yeah,
we still got it.
We still got them. So 270 versus 58,000 is not really the JCVD rub is not having the same effect. But it sounds like we'll be back next month with Crime Killer, which Ethan is very excited about.
Oh, we're actually doing it.
I say we do it. We can talk about it more after we're off air and on the email chain. But I say if there's a way we can watch it, I assume that seems like the kind of movie that's just like on YouTube in its entirety. Or you can rip the VHS tape and just send it to us.
Well, here's what I'm going to do then.
We'll do that. But let me get us signed off before, unless the audience needs to hear what you're.
Before you sign off,
okay.
Since maybe we'll get the topical bump for this one, since Mortal Kombat, it's new and it's on HBO and it's in theaters, etc.
Yeah.
So if we get 50,000 streams on this, and then people don't sign off after 2 minutes, and then they come back to watch The Crime Killer, I'll be so happy. One of the best things to ever happen to me.
There you have it.
There you have it.
Internet.
There you have it.
Make Ethan Chang's dreams come true, please.
And with that, good night, everybody.
I searched YouTube for Crime Killer movie, and something came up called Best Crime Thriller Movie 2020 in English full-length Hollywood drama film.
Yeah, that sounds right. All right. This was the Action Cast. Everybody, we'll see you next month. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
It's already
Just for y'all's benefit, I'll